Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Welcome to Kill Me Now. You know, this is, I say I have special episodes, right? This goes beyond a special episode. This episode is honoring an icon. We are going to spend time. I can't fucking believe this day is here because Judith and I have been talking about it forever. If you're a listener and you don't know who Edie Windsor, I can't say was because I'm in her apartment right now and she's still here. She is still here. I feel her presence. I'm here with her widow, Judith.
Surviving spouse.
Surviving spouse. Is that what they say now?
That's my preference.
A surviving spouse.
That's my preference.
I like that. And Judith.
The widow Windsor.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know. Judith actually has a great first name. What's your middle name?
Merrill. Judith Merrill.
That's so Jewy. Mine's Judith Hannah. Okay. She is Edie's.
You know who Judith was in the Bible.
Yes! She's fucking fierce, that Judith.
She was
Murder and a murderer.
A whore.
I'm a murderer and a whore. Yes. And we're here with, would you say you're Edie's ghostwriter, Joshua? Or what would you say? You're
co-author.
Co-author. I wouldn't say ghostwriter because A Wild and Precious Life, it's a memoir of my hero, I think, the LGBT, QRST, WXYZ community all over the world. She is the profound effect she has had on me and so many people's lives. And I know most of you never met her in person. It was like a ball of light, love, unconditional love, intelligence, appreciation, hope. I don't know how to describe this person and do it justice. And we'll post some photos. Can we take photos after of just the memorabilia and the awards and the proclamations and the name of the memoir is a Wild and Precious Life. And I think she was wild and I think she was precious. So I think that's a beautiful name for the book. Joshua Lyon is here. And Josh, you're not Jewish, are you?
God, I wish.
But you have Joshua.
Exactly. So
Are you circumcised?
I am.
Okay. Wait.
It's not quite dinging.
Okay, that's the
It's like a half ding.
Do you have a Jewish boyfriend?
No, he's so waspy.
Did you ever have a Jewish boyfriend?
Yes, I've had Jewish boyfriends, and
Right.
actually, he's my husband, the guy. The
Oh,
wasp
you're
that I'm
married?
to now. Yeah, I am
Not
married.
me. So oh my God, you have Jack Purcell's.
Yeah.
I just bought, I just bought two. I'm a sneaker whore. These are PF Flyers. I just bought corduroy Jack Purcell's.
Amazing. I always have to get the leather ones, even though I feel bad about buying new leather,
Oh,
but the
fuck
leather
it.
ones are better.
I-
They're so
it's like an off, it's like a brownish green, you know that brownish green thing, and a black.
I didn't even know they made corduroy.
Yeah, I got it on because they send me, I buy so many sneakers and all right, whatever. You know how you're on, you know how when you're on, this is a kill me now moment. You're on I'm reading an article. I don't need a pop-up of something I looked at 4 weeks ago. Like, hello, we're having a sale. You know, it's like, fucking leave me alone. Leave me alone. They fucking make you crazy by popping shit up, you know.
Drives me nuts. If I see one more keto diet thing.
Oh, well, you know the keto thing is like smelly pussy. Did you know that? Yeah, that's the
Okay.
no, that is the effect that your vagina smells.
Excellent. Good
Okay,
information.
so don't do it.
Good information.
Look, all I have to say about weight loss is the only thing that's ever worked that I have done besides a clinical depression is Weight Watchers. That's it. You're like, oh, this is how many, this is how much I'm supposed to eat in a day. Write it down, bump, and exercise. And you know what? Menopause sucks. Anyway, so Edie Windsor was the plaintiff in the Defense of Marriage Act case. Just to explain the case for anyone who's listening, Edie was married to Thea Spire. Not very long. They were together for 40 years. Over 40 years? 42 years. When were they married for 2? Mm-hmm. And when they were together and this was in my act. This is how I met Edie. I'll tell you how I met Edie. So I was doing a show called The Judy Show, My Life as a Sitcom. And I had read about Edie and Thea getting married. And I used to do a bit in my act, starting in the early 2000s. I had come out on stage in the mid-90s as a gay parent. And then I started getting so fucking annoyed about equality because I had a family and I realized all the entitlements and benefits that straight people had that I didn't have, even though my son Henry, we did a second parent adoption, but it was as if we were not valid. We had to carry around, straight people do not realize that to this day, we have to come out to someone. I'd say about 5 people a day. We have to come out. Constantly. People make assumptions. I check into a hotel with Elisa, and it's like, oh, you got a king-size bed. Did you mean to get 2 queens? It's like constant little shit that you straight people have never had to deal with. And I was so sick of people voting for people like Bush who, no protections for us. We didn't want extra. We wanted equality. We wanted the same. And I feel like, so I used to do this. I came out as a gay parent. And then when I was like, all this shit I would talk about my family, I was like, it's so not fair. And I started talking about all these people who were entitled, who had marriage benefits that are like Jerry Sandusky, Eric and Lyle Menendez can get married in jail, and I can't get married. Charles Manson, Mary Kay Letourneau can marry her fucking 13-year-old. They have more rights than I do.
It's insanity.
And so I used to sing the song 1128. It was about all the, rights we didn't have, and I did the show. And when I finally wrote The Judy Show, My Life as a Sitcom, and it was about my addiction to sitcoms and how all I ever wanted was to do a sitcom about a gay family, right? Because my act had become, I'm a gay mom, and no one gave a shit, because they were like, oh, it's the same issues as we have. So people forgot I was gay in my act because they were like, oh, she's just a mom with kids. So it normalized, that's what you have to do is normalize things. So I invited, and I had read Edie and Thea's wedding announcement, and it made me sad, like weepy, but it made me so angry because here's Edie Windsor and Thea Spire, 2 women who contributed so much to not only New York, but to the world. Edie was a pioneer at IBM. She worked on the first computer, which was like a block long, right?
Univac. The Univac.
Univac, right. She was a successful, intelligent. Thea was a very well-known doctor, psychologist. Thea ended up getting, well, we're going to get to this, but she ended up getting MS, and they ended up having to get married at the airport fucking hotel in Canada because we didn't have federal benefits here. We had state benefits by the time they get married, but we didn't have federal. And so she went before, but Thea passes away. They literally have to have 4 aides on the fucking plane with Dr. Thea Spire and Edie Windsor. They have to get on a plane with 4 aides, and because she's a paraplegic, and fly to a fucking airport in Canada to get married. How fucking unfair is that? I don't care what your religious beliefs are. It's bullshit. And they got married. They had a little party in the hotel. And they flew back home. And 2 years later, Thea passed away. And Edie gets a $363,000 federal inheritance tax bill.
And $275 state.
Oh, and $275,000 state. I thought she didn't have to pay the state. She did. State inheritance tax bill because we were not covered under the federal government as we could be domestic partners, but we did not get the benefits of a legal marriage, of a spouse who was legally married. Meanwhile, in other parts of the country, people are. This woman in Florida was with her kids at Orlando at the, whatchamacallit, what's it called? Disney, what the fuck? Her wife has a stroke. She's sent to the hospital in the ICU. They will not let her spouse in because gay marriage isn't legal in Florida. Her kids, they wouldn't let her in because she wasn't the kids in because they weren't the birth kids. That woman died alone in an ICU. Jesus. Because of your fucking bullshit. I support Trump, even though he's a philanderer, a liar, a pussy, a fucking misogynist. But, it's so infuriating. So anyway, I'm sorry, I get so mad. So I had seen their wedding announcement, and I was writing the show, it's about my addiction to sitcoms and how I always wanted to have a gay family. And I go through all the different times in my life where I pitched the sitcom. First, it was just me and my ex. Then it was me and my ex and we have kids. Then it was we're divorced and living in the same building. Any straight guy would have been taken already. And I end up at the end of the show talking about Edie and Thea and how unfair this is, and how and in the show I tell the executives who were like, oh, no, the audiences aren't ready for this, or there's not enough sex, whatever they would say. And I tell the story, and I invited Edie. I never thought she would come to the show. And afterwards, it was a matinee. We talked for hours. She didn't leave the theater. She wrote her, I still have the card with her phone number on it, with her perfect handwriting. And I, like everyone else, I fell in, you truly could not fall in love with this woman. And I thought when she was the plaintiff in this case, how can you argue? How can you say this woman who married for together for over 40 years, engaged for 37, they had the fucking temerity, they had this hope when, I Judith, as a little girl, you never thought, you knew you had a secret and that it never were you going to be able to have a family. It was like, oh my God, I know this. I'll work it out later. I got to hide it. And here's someone who is, it's a mental illness, homosexuality. And they get engaged. Yeah. And they are the heroes of, we hear about, there are many, Harvey Milk. We hear so many amazing people but these two women, and lesbians do not, I'm sorry, we do not get the recognition we deserve. We're still women. This is, she was the face of normalcy and of family and of integrity. I mean, she really, and so
she was a class act.
She was fucking. You can't. I know, but it's hot. It's hot. That's Judith. She has no voice.
No, this is not my voice.
But
she was all about dignity and justice and a class act.
Do you think?
No, I can't.
And today's your anniversary.
Yes.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Bittersweet. But do you think
I feel very peaceful.
Yes.
And very joyous. Because growing up, she asked me, she goes, how come you never got married? You're 50 or 51 years old. And I'm like, because I never thought that I would be able to.
Right, that it was even a possibility.
It was so out there that, whenever I had girlfriends, I had ones living with me, whatever, you always kind of had one foot out the door because it didn't matter.
Right. And it was also that we were never validated.
Right.
Like even with our families.
Even after Oberga fell, I think both of Judith and I have talked about this a lot. Like it was just so conditioned in us that this was never a possibility for us.
Yes.
That even after it became a reality, it didn't feel like it was something that was...
Kaplan.
I thought you said Obergefell.
Oh, I thought you said Roberta. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I'm losing. But do you feel like you lost your voice?
Oh, totally.
Like that it is a...
Oh, no, I think Edie's doing this
Yeah,
too.
I do too.
She was so funny and she was so mischievous.
Yeah.
And yes, she was like, we're going to shut her
Like
down
on
today.
the day that we're doing the podcast, and
Yeah,
also
she's so
on the
shutting
day
me
the
down.
book is coming out, it's like, no, you shut up. It's about me. Yeah.
Yep. She's so shutting me down.
Now, Josh.
She's like, don't tell my little secret.
Right. Don't worry. So Judith met Edie after Thea had died.
No, I met Thea. Met Thea once at a Callan Lord event.
Oh my God, you did.
Briefly, just once. I was brought over and introduced her.
When you saw the two of them together, now Thea was a paraplegic. Mm-hmm. Could she speak?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She was quadriplegic, neck down. And she still saw patients. She was a very well-respected.
Up until the end.
Yeah, up until the very end. Which is like, you can't go to paraplegic as a therapist because then... Quadriplegic, sorry. What's para? Oh, para's just that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. You can't go to you're going to whine about your fucking parents and they can't move? Yeah. Seriously.
Well, she used to sit behind that desk.
Oh, so there was no...
And so people really didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah, she had an aide who would come and set her up behind the desk before the patients came over because, she wanted to, I think just appear... Normal is the wrong word.
Like FDR.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did the patients know how bad it was?
No. I don't think so.
I imagine some did. I mean, this speculation, just because it...
Yeah, but not all. That's amazing.
So she had a lot of long-term patients as well that I think obviously saw that there was...
Right. So we're in the room where the therapy...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And those doors.
Oh, yeah, there's doors to close.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so Edie would go into the other room, those pocket doors would close, and she would have her sessions in here.
You met them. What was it like? Could you feel the...
It was really brief, and I just remember Thea in this like Rolls Royce of a wheelchair.
Right.
And I don't remember meeting Edie, but she must have been...
Around there.
And it was just some event, and I just said hello and kept moving. And she passed away shortly thereafter.
And then did you...
And they show it, in the film where Thea's coming out of the minivan.
Yes.
That was the event.
Wow.
That's what jogged my memory, that I was like, oh my God, I met them.
Right. Wow. And you didn't realize it until then.
Until I watched Edie and Thea, Very Long Engagement.
That, by the way, get that movie.
110
Incredible documentary.
times.
Yeah. It's the most amazing movie.
I think we should do a Trivial Pursuit game.
Okay.
On that movie, and I'll win.
All right. When's the last time you watched it?
Maybe like a year or so.
Okay, so you win. Okay, but I make people watch it all the time.
100 times.
Edie and Thea, Long Engagement. Okay.
Very long engagement.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I really want to start at the beginning because her life is, fascinating. Especially, she was born in 1929. And my mother was born in 1922. And my aunt was born in 1929. I mean, she was born at a time so foreign to where we are now. She, Jewish parents, youngest of three. She had an older brother and older sister. Are they alive? No. Wait, Jewish parents and older brother. All right. And she was very close with her brother, Blackie.
Yes.
Was she close with Dolly, her sister?
Very much when they were younger.
Yeah, I noticed that when they were younger, that she was really like her mother, kind of. And in the book, she speaks so highly of her mother as a woman who really gave her daughters confidence.
Yeah, she always maintained that she wouldn't even be who she was if it weren't for her mother and the confidence that she gave her and all her children that they could do anything that they wanted. I mean, Seal believed in her children above anything else.
You know what's interesting is that at that time, women, to be a woman or to be feminine, you have no opinion. Listen to your husband. And here's this woman who's, born at the turn of the century, who is telling, you can do anything. I mean, women could only vote 9 years before, had the right to vote 9 years before Edie was born.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's crazy.
I know. So they lived in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
They went from a little house to a bigger house, but did I get this wrong? They didn't have a lot of money, but her mother wanted to live in a
better neighborhood because she wanted her daughters to marry nice Jewish men that would make money. She really just wanted she wanted her kids to be comfortable, and at that time that was the way in for
You know
her
what,
daughters.
Josh? You want to know what's sad? For a lot of people, it still
the
is.
same.
Yeah, go to Scarsdale. Take care.
Totally.
Right?
My mother's still hoping.
Is she? No, she's not. Oh, okay. So then she's very close with her sister and her brother, but she gets called in. She ends up going to Rittenhouse. Is that true?
Yeah, Rittenhouse College. And Rittenhouse College was one of those schools that was created for the GI Bill after soldiers were coming back from World War II. And there were a lot of them that suddenly popped up for profit because suddenly there was a lot of money where people were paying to go to college. So there were kind of some shady people. I can't say for sure whether Rittenhouse was one of the shady ones.
Right.
I don't really know
But
much
Rittenhouse
about it.
Square is a nice part
Rittenhouse Square is beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But the college was in her high school.
Right.
It was at night. So by the time she graduated and went to that school, nothing was really changing in her life. She was just basically staying at her same high school. So she wasn't too thrilled about it.
Right.
First.
But she did go for a higher education,
Yes,
which
100%. Yeah.
she ends up going to this college, which is a part of her high school. She joins the tennis team because tennis is very Jewy. Don't you think, Judith?
Totally.
And especially doubles. I remember I always played tennis. I sucked, but now, and I was like, I'm never playing doubles.
This summer.
And I won the fucking championship. The mixed doubles. I played with the best guy, but still, I did my own thing.
Yes.
I returned all the fucking asshole serves. All right. So she's on the tennis team, and she meets a woman named Renee.
Renee.
Oh, Renee. That's right. Renee. Renee Kaplan, which is because Roberta Kaplan was the attorney in the defense of marriage case, and Renee was her first girlfriend. Was Edie's first person she touched, but she did.
It was the first real kind of crush and awakening that the feelings that she had for girls were physical. She talks a lot about how. Because I asked her, I was like, in high school, were you aware that these feelings you were having meant that you were attracted to women? And she said no, that she thought of it as just intense friendship. Just deep, intense friendship. So Renee was really kind of her sexual awakening.
Right.
Honestly, it was all those bare limbs on the tennis court on the roof of this school.
Yeah, she said she loved it because everyone wore a short skirt. I think that's such a good point because straight people, how'd you know you were gay? And it's like, there's something. You're not feeling the same ways. And it's when you become an adolescent or later, when you're sexual and you're like, oh. But she's doing, oh, in the early 40s, the 40s. And it's like, I mean, our generation wasn't represented. No. We had no one, and yet she had, you can't even talk about it. Josh, you're young.
I'm not as young as I look.
Really?
Yeah, I was born in 74.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Okay. I'm not as young as I look. Do I say that? No. So.
No, I get shit for that a lot.
I know, it's not fair.
It's going to turn real fast.
Good, I hope so. So they have an affair, and they get called. Reenie's mother is a fucking asshole yenta, and says to them, and reports her fucking. She really reported Edie. Reenie's mother. I'm doing a bunch of these to get them out. And they get called to speak to the head of the school, and Edie says, I'm bringing my sister, Dolly, because she didn't want to bring Seal. But in the end, she said she probably should have brought Seal because Seal wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, Seal was actually used to being called into the school.
Right.
Like if Edie acted out in, elementary or high school, Seal would come, to be disciplined or to and Seal would just end up yelling at the teacher,
right?
And being like, Edie's smarter than you, and yeah.
My mother used to do that too.
Yeah, but this was different. This was this was something sexual, and so she kind of, I think, thought that she might be able to get that over Dolly's head in a way that she was worried Seal might pick up on, which is interesting because she also claimed, till the very end that she didn't think Seal ever knew she was a lesbian. I personally don't think that's true, and many of her family members don't. Anyway, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
I'm just going to say, as someone with children,
Yeah.
You fucking know everything.
Yeah.
Unless you're living in a fucking fantasy world.
And Seal definitely was not living in a fantasy world.
Wow. And
And Seal was very close with Edie and Thea.
Seal was very close with Edie. I know. Did I say this on the last one? That my mother used to come in the fucking apartment? My mother used to come in my apartment and be like, I was telling this to someone yesterday. We had a day bed in one bedroom, okay, which always had laundry on it. And then we had a queen size bed in the other bedroom, and there was an alarm clock on each side. And my mother would come and stay over all the time. She'd walk in with her bag, and she'd be like, she'd go into our bedroom and say, I don't want to kick Sharon out of her room. I'm like, Ma, it's not her room. Why would she pay half the rent to sleep on a fucking twin-size day bed? Okay? Anyway, so you definitely know. All right, so Edie was a very precocious child and very funny and very good at math, which was not, right? Not
it wasn't
the usual.
Yeah.
So she goes to college.
She skipped 2 grades.
She skipped 2 grades, that's right.
She went at 16.
16 to college.
Crazy.
And she was smarter than the boys.
She's way smarter than the boys. I mean, she talks about her little pencil box with a little chalkboard on top.
Yeah.
And during tests, she'd get all the answers done super fast, glance around, people would see people struggling. So she'd write down the answers and kind of angle her pencil box towards them.
So her. And she was a bookkeeper at the age of 10 for someone's company.
Yeah. For her aunt. Yeah.
Yeah, for her aunt.
What the fuck is that?
I know.
It's child labor.
Right, I know, but brilliant. She goes through college. She has more experiences. She has Caroline, who is her brother is Blackie. Wait, who? It's Rick and Caroline, right? No.
Okay. So,
oh God, I read the book. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay, so
And
Dolly.
Everybody has a nickname.
Yeah. Well, and it gets doubly confusing because some names have been changed also. So it's I have to make sure I don't accidentally blurt out somebody's real name. Particularly her second girlfriend. We didn't use the real name.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
After all these years?
Yeah, still after all these years.
Is it because of the girlfriend?
No, it's because we're not sure. We're not sure if her family is still around.
Yeah, Edie picked that.
Yeah,
Edie decided that?
Oh, yeah, and Edie specifically picked a name, and didn't want to out her just in case.
Yeah.
That was something
so
that was
thoughtful.
Yeah, Edie was very, very
about that kind of
particular about that.
Wow.
But to answer your question, Rick was Dolly's husband, and Dolly was 11 years old.
Right, that's right. Rick and Dolly, yeah.
So Rick and Dolly. And Rick's best friend was a guy named Saul. Who was always around the house when Edie was growing up.
No, Saul was friends with Blackie.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Saul was really good friends with Blackie.
Yeah.
Saul and Edie's brother were really good friends.
And Rick, though. I mean, they all used to hang
Yeah.
out together especially during World War II when all
Right.
the soldiers were coming around the house. But yes, so he was much closer with Blackie.
Okay. So she is, she knows she's a leslie.
Yep.
I don't know if she would have used that word at this
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Yeah,
I say that's what I use.
That's
She knows she's homosexual.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yet,
But this I'm like,
yeah, it's the 40s.
even me in the 70s. Like,
Oh, I know.
know
In
that-
the 80s.
Yeah,
know
and I
that
still
word.
don't even think that word
Didn't even
was-
know that word.
Like that word. I mean,
She said-
she knew the word. but
Yeah, because you said that she had a hard time. You wrote that she had a hard time, using that word to lesbian to describe herself.
And she was definitely interested in studying. When she transferred colleges and was studying psychology, it was super into the Kinsey report.
Right, yes.
I mean, she was definitely doing her research.
And it was interesting because she said to her mother, I'm going to go to therapy.
It was her dad.
Oh, it was her dad.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
No.
You know I'm usually perfect on my...
it's not fair.
It's hard for me to remember.
Huh? All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
no, it's a real- I
but
mean,
she
it's an
went to her
entire
father
life,
and said, I'm going to... And what do you need that for, he says. And she said, think of it as like a master's degree, but the subject is myself. I mean, she's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Brilliant. Who thinks of that? And who goes to therapy at that time?
No.
So, but she's still having, there's so many love affairs in this book. There's so much love in the book, right? And none of her relationships are this flippant, like a guy who was writing about, I met this chick, and it's so, she really does describe these relationships and what she got out of them. She was such a fucking evolved person.
Yeah.
She was born in the wrong century,
Totally.
Okay, well, you opened the book, and I was wondering, just because you have to get this book, A Wild and Precious Life. The photos are amazing. The photo with her and Reenie's on the end with her legs out. And
It's like the Rockettes.
yeah,
But-
she meets Saul. There it is, Saul. And all right, so does she meet her gay friend before Saul?
Yes.
So
but
yeah.
Neither of them had any idea the other was gay at the time. She was palling around with a guy named Marty,
Right.
During the summers out in Atlantic City.
Yes.
Between school while she was.
So she would go down to Atlantic City and make money. She did get fired from the job as a valet because she was too slow. But she was waitressing.
Horrible driver.
Yeah, it wasn't that she was
Horrible
slow.
driver.
It was more that she was too fast.
Right.
She thought stop signs were a suggestion.
Stop signs were suggestions.
Yes.
This is a perfect day for you to fucking lose your... I mean, it's not even like it's lost. It's fucking gone, Judith. So she ends up marrying...
She ends up marrying Saul.
Saul.
And the reason why she ends up marrying Saul is he'd been around her life. She'd known him her whole life and had harbored a very real childhood crush on him. He was like the handsome older guy when she was younger. He'd always been around, close friends with her brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a trusted figure, and she was, I think, genuinely attracted to him at the time. And
there was no choice at that point.
There was no choice, and that was really the driving reason why she ended up breaking up with the woman we call Caroline in the book, is that it really just became apparent to her that there was no future for them.
Right. So Caroline is seeing...
Caroline's got her own boyfriend.
Right. And they're going out on double dates.
Secret double dates.
And at one point, Saul questions her.
No, that was actually, Edie was dating a different guy.
Oh, great.
Time. Yeah,
Judy.
I'm telling her love
She has
life.
fucked so many people, I can't. Sorry.
Well, no,
I love you,
Edie. One thing that I love about the book that
Oh
so
my
many people
God.
have read it and they're like, there's so much sex in it.
I
I'm
know.
like, yeah, of course.
I
'cause
have to
everybody-
say,
but
that was so much of her. There is
that's-
so much sex in this, and it's
that's
it's
normal.
hot.
It's normal.
I know, but when
It's
she
like
describes that last night in Atlantic City, and Caroline coming over and saying, I mean, it's so hot. Let me tell you something. If your relationship sucks, especially if you're in the lesbian deathbed phase, get this fucking book and read it. You're gonna want to have sex with your girlfriend all the time. All right. So she breaks up with this guy, and she really had, she would let him touch her, and it was like, ugh. But she marries Saul.
Yeah, she ends up marrying Saul because he's safe and he's consistent. And she had actually dated him before when she was younger, had tried it out, and he was
Saul.
just the
Sorry.
guy. He was the one that made the most sense for the life that Seal had always wanted for her, the only life that she really knew was really possible for herself. And the way she always described it is that, she wasn't doing this as like a mask. Like, she really went into that marriage all in. Like, she really, really believed, like, okay, I'm in it. This is it. This is my life. There was no faking it at the time, but it just...
Except
Yes.
she would not be a wiener.
Oh, yes.
She would not be a wiener. That's right.
She changed her name.
So they changed it to Windsor.
And his father had a fit.
His father had a fit.
Yeah, the in-laws weren't too happy about that.
I mean, it's such a non-Jewish name, Windsor. So her name became Edith Windsor.
Correct.
And he kept Edith Windsor. And he kept the name Windsor, right?
No, he didn't.
No.
Oh, fuck. She kept it, yes.
The marriage didn't last. They ended up separating within a year,
Shocking.
less even.
Yeah.
I want to say it was around 5-6 months.
But she really gave it her all.
She did give it her all.
She never did anything half-assed.
No, she didn't. And I think it was being in the permanence of the reality of what marriage actually was to a man that really, I think, kind of like triggered it for her.
Right.
This is not for me. This is not who I am. This is not what I'm supposed to be.
And for someone to do that, I mean, think of all the gay men and women that lived their lives because they thought that was the only way. I mean, it's so sad. And still, to this day.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I loved is that Blackie knew the marriage wasn't going to last, and I'm curious if it's because he had his suspicions about Edie at the time, but he told Dolly at one point that he's like that marriage isn't going to last 6 months, and Dolly was so furious she threw him out of the house.
Oh God! Wow. This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself, you can process, and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it, and you sit there and you wait, and then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome. They get divorced. She moves to the village.
She moves back home first just to kind of get
her bearings.
Get her bearings. Yeah. And had been very keenly aware that Greenwich Village was the place for her, that this is where she was reading. There were a lot of like open gay people around. She was also, because she loved poetry so much, knew that there was like a very cool poetry scene going on there. I think her style of poetry that she liked didn't necessarily align with the beats, but there was.
But she loved poetry, yeah.
She loved poetry, and felt that she could really live as her true self there.
Right.
So yeah, packed up.
Did she explain to her family why she was moving?
School, I believe.
She used that,
was the reason.
Right.
Yeah. She was looking for. She was just doing some basic like bookkeeping job, or her first job was working at the makeup counter
right.
at a drugstore. But and did some like accounting books. Went to school at Hunter for a while. She still kind of also believed at that time that the only other career option for her was to become a teacher.
Right.
That was something that was really common
with women. Yeah. Or nurse.
Or nurse. Right.
So she moves here unapologetically so that she can live her life. Yeah. We're in the 1950s at this point.
Early 50s. Yeah.
52.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many women moved and lived on their own in Greenwich Village in the early 50s?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. I read for research a lot of really amazing, like the lesbian pulp books of that period.
Oh,
like
the
Bebo Brinker.
Yeah, Bebo Brinker, yeah.
I mean, it was just great just to help me get like a visual sense of what the bars were like. I mean, I had like some recollections from women that I interviewed, but that really helped also paint the world for me.
Tell us about the life of a lesbian. Because they were all essentially, they were closeted, except in their bedrooms. And she had met she met a lesbian couple on the campus of Rittenhouse. She literally went up to these two women who looked butchy and said, "Hey, you see that girl over there? I want to kiss her."
This was with the first girlfriend.
Yeah. I want to kiss her. Do you know where we can go? And they were like, "What?" And then, only who would do that? And she rented their studio on a weekly basis so she could make out with her girl. I mean, like, she found places to have sex. I mean, this book is fucking amazing. Okay, so tell us about the Leslie scene. I know, but I've been saying that since I'm a little girl. All right, the Leslie scene in the 50s here in the Village.
Well, it was one of the most fascinating things for me to research because you hear so much about gay men's bars, right? It's
always.
Like so
men
during that period. But I really didn't know anything about the women's bars before going into this project. And it was different. I mean, I guess I assumed before working on this book that gay bars were gay bars and there were women also in there, but they weren't. There were very, very specific women bars even then. And the research with the lesbian pulp books really helped me put together like a lot of pieces based on interviews that I had done with real women here. Like one detail that kept like popping up in like the pulp books is that there was always somebody around like asking like, "Oh, give me a quarter and I'll sketch your picture."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, that's just a cute weird detail," but it's totally not. It was the frickin' mafia getting like drawings of the people to use as blackmail, so later they could come to them and be like, "Hey, we've got this picture of you that our artist took, like created of you in a women's bar. Give me $50 or we're gonna."
My God.
It was so shitty.
And that's so shitty. And yet they are the ones that own the bars.
Yeah.
Like they
own the bars, but a lot of them were really a lot of them weren't meant to last. They were just used as like these quick like money laundering things, money bust out joints is I think the phrase. But then you had like longer term ones that were actual money makers for them, particularly the gay men's bars. And for those, they would.
Well, men had way more money than women.
Yeah.
Still.
Just it's a world that I feel like the last living group of people that actually remember what that world was like. The women's bar scene is. I mean, we're
approaching the end.
We're approaching the end. Yeah. It makes me want to do so many more interviews. And every time I did interview any of these like incredible like octogenarian lesbians, just would collect their own stories as well. Like after we talk about how they knew Edie and they give me their Edie stories, I was like, tell me about you. Like,
right.
I want to know what your life was like too. And that really just helped to like paint the larger world out.
Which has not been documented at all.
No.
Yeah.
It's amazing. One thing about Edie, and then we'll go back to her life, is that, I feel like women's rights are being taken away now. I think Planned Parenthood needs an Edie. You don't need young people. You need an 85-year-old woman who watched her friends get botched abortions on the kitchen table. You cannot argue with an older woman who's lived her life. You cannot. You're telling me these motherfucker senators are going to... Okay, that's all I have to say. We need more Edies.
I agree with that, but I disagree with that. We don't need more young people. Like I
don't mean we don't need more young people. I'm saying to get it through these motherfuckers' head, like they can't argue.
Totally.
Well,
yeah, that was a huge part of why Edie was the perfect plaintiff, right?
Yes, absolutely. So she's living in this lesbo life. Tell us about how she got the job at IBM.
So it was through school. She went through a series of jobs, was working at the AP for a while.
And just looks so hot in her fucking outfits.
Smoking hot.
I mean, there's a pic you just showed me. There's a picture in the book and in the bathroom of her sitting at her desk, like fucking.
Oh yeah, those are the.
She
IBM
was so
days,
fashionable. She was such a femme. She loved she loved being a woman and she loved women,
And you also have to, but that actually is something really important to consider in terms of how she was actually able to move within these worlds. Like it was the fact that she was straight passing, she was feminine, she was beautiful, and that allowed her a lot of room that so many other queer people during the time just did not have.
And beautiful.
But, yeah.
And also being a Windsor, not a Wiener.
Yeah, Windsor, not Wiener. She was
But she was also smart enough to realize that she wanted financial stability. She knew that she could only get a job that could get her that if she had some kind of higher education. She knew she was a whiz at math. So she wanted to go to NYU, wanted to get her master's in mathematics. Didn't have the money for it. And at the time, NYU, if you worked for them, you could get free tuition. So she just marched into one of their offices and was like, I need this secretarial position. And they turned her down because they looked at her resume and they were like, you've done too much already. Like you've been like an executive assistant at the AP to this major figure. Like you're going to be bored out of your mind. And she was really crushed. She went home. She thought about it. And she showed up unannounced the next day and was like, listen, I need to talk to you again. And the woman let her come back to her office. And she was like, I want this. I need this. Need it for school. I'll be honest with you. I'll be totally upfront. I only want this job because I want to go to school. But I promise you, I will give this job my everything. I will be thrilled to be here every day. And it worked. And the woman was like, okay,
how can you say
hired.
no to her?
Yeah. So she was hired and started school. And
she got her degree. And how did she get the job at IBM? I mean, no women were working at IBM.
No,
really.
That's actually not true.
Oh, actually, IBM was one of the only. I take that back. Companies that did hire women.
They were really good about recruiting women. They wanted women in the workforce, and they even specifically had like brochures like geared towards women.
Yes,
they would bring over to the colleges to hire people out. But
no other company was doing that.
Right. And she also had all that incredible experience working on like the UNIVAC for like the Atomic Energy Commission, like in partnership with NYU.
Right.
I mean, she had coding skills. I'm sorry.
Right.
She had she was a shoo-in for the job. So yeah, she got hired pretty much right out of school.
What was her initial job?
Oh man. So the funny thing is when you look at her resumes and you look at the job titles, like at IBM, I called IBM and I was like, I don't know about math. I don't know about computers. I need you to explain to me what these titles mean. And they're like, it's changed a lot. We're not even sure.
Wow.
But she was, basically what she was doing a lot of programming at first. And then she was working within a division called Share, SHARE, not CHER.
Not Share.
And what that was kind of it was almost like a think tank within the system, where what they were doing was gathering all the information and research that all the different departments in IBM were developing, bringing them to their department, and then seeing how all these different practices could be used together in a way to help the company as a whole.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And she loved that. She had this very like specialized team of people, was working kind of at that point was more like in management, was really like overseeing like this team, and loved it. A lot of people, one of the first things they kind of assume is that like you think Mad Men, right? Like
Oh,
it's 19,
I even look at the you look at the photos in the book
you
and
think,
here and she looks exactly like
and you think the women are being like treated poorly, and like she never had anything bad to say about the people that she worked with. She had a female boss. She loved the people. She loved the people she worked with. They would vacation together. They
and they had no idea she was a lesbian.
And they had no idea she was a lesbian, and they were constantly trying to set her up with people.
and she is surrounded by men in some of the photos in the book. And how did they treat her? Were the guys at IBM different than the guys at other companies? Like
an equal. I think if I'd had more time with Edie, and if I'd continued to dig deep, and if I'd been able to show her some of the documents that I found in the archives afterwards, it would have prompted a few more memories. For example, I found a kind of like check-in progress report from one of her bosses, a male boss at that point. And one of the areas that she was supposed to, grow in was learning to curb her emotions.
Shut the fuck
I read that. I was like, I wish I could have showed this.
Are you kidding me? That
Edie.
happens today.
Yeah, that was some bullshit.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But she got promoted.
She kept getting promoted. Yeah, she knew. I mean, she knew. Honestly, she knew how to play. She knew how to play the game, and she was smart enough to do it. She was actually, she was contributing very important things to the company. She was a really valued member of it. But her dating life, so she was just keeping mum on.
She kept the ruse going. Like she played into this whole thing, but had a double life.
Correct.
Very much a double life. She was. There was a women's bar called the Bagatelle, and she was known as the Belle of the Bagatelle. She was very famous. She didn't drink a lot.
She got drunk earlier in her life and was like, gross.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not really having that. And like, she would have like one cocktail out, but then like really
But
switch
she
over
would
to like
act
coffee.
like so tipsy after she had it. Don't you think?
Oh, she was a flirt. She was a flirt.
Yeah.
I mean, also,
Oh my God, beyond flirting. Unapologetically flirting.
Totally.
You felt like a fucking $1 million around her.
Everyone did.
I don't care who you were.
Every single she had that gift that like I've only seen in a few people in my life. No, not like
I'm kidding, Josh.
Not like Trump. No,
it was a joke.
This gift, it's a totally different thing. Where like, because Trump does the exact opposite.
I know. I don't even want him in this.
Yeah.
Get rid of that. Fuck you. Okay.
Yeah. Let's not even.
All right, let's get rid of it. No, she really did make you feel like $1 million.
She had this ability to make you feel like you were the only person in the room, even if you were in a crowded room. Like when she was talking to you, you were the only person.
You know who did that? Bill Clinton. I met him and I was like, and he looked straight at you and then I met him again and he remembered what we had spoken about.
Yeah, that's the best kind of person, right?
Yeah.
They're like interesting, but they're also interested.
Right. Obama was like that.
Yeah, I wish.
I met Michelle.
Yeah.
I met Michelle. Did you meet Barry Obama? Fuck you, Judith. So, jealous. So, she's living the double life. Does anyone at work suspect?
Not at this point. Yeah, I don't think so. She would go on the occasional like double date. She had this, it was very easy for her actually. Like if she felt like pressure was getting too much at work and people were maybe starting to ask too much questions, she'd go on a date with somebody who worked in like a different department, but there was a built-in excuse there, which is like, oh, we can't continue seeing each other. We work together. So she was shrewd about that as well,
And if she was unattractive, no one would have fucking said a goddamn thing. They would have been like, So tell us about, how she meets Thea. She's financially doing great, correct?
Yeah, she's doing pretty well for herself. Yeah.
Her family?
Her family, yeah. And her father had passed away very suddenly while he was visiting her actually in New York. So Seal was on her own. But Seal was a shrewd businesswoman herself.
You can tell Edie has a lot of Seal in her.
Yeah.
Had a lot of Seal
and
in her.
think, I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, but Seal, I think, had bought the house at bought the new house closer to Rittenhouse Square. So they had she had a bigger house. She was renting out some of the rooms as apartments, so making more income that way.
Right.
They were doing okay. Dolly was, I'm not going to remember if she'd graduated yet with her PhD. I think that was later. They were doing well.
How many kids
they were all
that
doing well.
age have advanced women in a family have advanced degrees like PhDs and master's degrees?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's very popular in the Leslie world. No.
Yeah.
No. Yes. And yet she has this double life. Do you think that took a toll on her?
Yes.
I don't see how it. I don't see how it couldn't have. I mean, I think anybody living a double life, it's going to catch up with you, right, at some point.
How do you think she dealt with that?
Well, one of the ways she dealt with it, and it was and this was after she had initially met Thea and really kind of fallen for her, and it wasn't working out. She started going to therapy, and it wasn't strictly a conversion therapy, but it was pretty close to conversion therapy. Because she had reached a point in her life where she was like, I've dated a bunch of women. Nothing is really sticking. I don't see how I can form a long-term relationship with any of them. The one woman that I am like the most like in love with, or think I'm in love with, because I don't really, most passionate about at this moment in my life, is completely unavailable, both just emotionally, and she's with somebody else.
Right.
So she's like, maybe it's time for me to try and do what I did with Saul and just bury all of this. And the thing that she said that really always killed me was that she was like, I can live without sex in my life, which I also kind of don't believe.
Yes.
when it comes to her. She's like, I could live without sex, but I can't live without love in a marriage. And so her big plan was that she was going to find a widower who was very sad and still, mourning the loss of his wife, didn't really want a sexual relationship, but had children, and she could funnel all of that energy and love that she had to give into children.
Can you? I mean that's your choice.
Yeah. And that was that was really the only
and the way she was so specific about it.
Describe that group. The group was like philanderers and
it was a shitty group.
Shunned Edie.
Yeah, it was
gay. Wait, say this again.
Yeah. So the group, the therapy group that she joined, it was a group therapy group.
Okay.
And there were
this was the conversion.
This is the conversion therapy. Again, not technically conversion therapy, but for all intents and purposes, it was.
Right.
And she was like the worst one.
There were two other. I think she said there were maybe like two other gay guys that very quickly who were there for the same reason. I need help curbing my homosexual behavior so I can live a quote unquote normal life. And they very quickly dropped out. And so it was just her. And there were all the other people in the group were like, real assholes and doing really fucked up shitty things, like cheating on their wives, doing a lot of drugs. But Edie was the one with the real problem.
What year was this?
This would have been
late 50s? No.
It would have been
early 60s.
Early 60s.
I need to start keeping my book with me.
So early 60s, and she's 60s. In this group, and they are telling her. So she's come out in the group.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're telling her, you're the worst.
Yeah.
And what you need to do is be with a man, and we'll try and help you find a man. We'll help you, curb these homosexual feelings that you have. I don't know the exact language they were using. I'm not sure what specific type of therapy they were using. Do you know what I mean? But except that it was group, which is, there's an element of huge peer pressure there too,
of
right?
course.
It's horrifying. And it wasn't just at the group. They would meet out of group and get coffee and hang out. So this was a big part of her life. And the thing that got her out of it was that she heard through the grapevine that Thea was suddenly single and going to be alone and free and available out in the Hamptons.
Don't forget to tune in next week to Just Kill Me Now.
It's Just Kill Me.
Oh. Don't forget to turn for part 2 on Just Kill Me.
No, it's not. It's
Just Kill Me.
No.
Judy Gold's Just Kill Me.
Just
Kill Me Now.